And there was a very nice discussion with the CEO because he was like, but why would people register? The CEO is pretty open, like, okay, if it doesn't work, it's on you. Yeah. I hate ice because, confidence. I have confidence 87, I don't care how confident you are. It's not about confidence, it's not about beliefs, not about faith. It's about facts. Oh, you need to be a good influencer. I'm a pretty bad influencer myself, but I bring data. I bring facts. I don't like to work with people that try to convince me that they already know the answer. You're not paid to have ideas at all. Okay? Maybe we are experts in learning the solution, but we'll never be experts in the problem. The users are experts in the problem. They know what's painful for them. Continuous learning is what a product manager does. You have to be excited about your own ignorance, and if you're not comfortable with that, you should not be in product, right? And the CEO was like, I can't believe
How
how,
did you do that?
yeah, why?
In this series, we invite professionals that work with digital products to talk about interesting cases they have worked in their journeys. Fabio has over 15 years of experience in the product management field. He's worked in a wide range of industries, including startups, established companies, and as a freelance consultant. Fabio has experience across the globe, working in Canada, Brazil, Portugal, and the Netherlands. His career is marked by a dedication to building strong product cultures, implementing data-driven decision-making, and fostering a culture of continuous improvement. He's led teams, mentored other professionals, and worked in Farfetch, Booking.com, Sword Health, Vitex, Descomplica, Estante Virtual, and Fabio has taught product management at Product School, Terra, and Buscapé Company. Fabio is currently living in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, from where he is responsible for the CPO role for select companies. This is a flexible model that enables companies to benefit from his expertise without compromising their budgets with high seniority paychecks. Fabio is a true expert in product management, so we're very excited to have him here today.
Hi, Paulo, and thanks for having me.
Product managers are constantly navigating in an ocean of theories, frameworks, techniques, methodologies, always trying to adapt the best practices to their own unique contexts. So, potential tweaks to processes, teams, and communication dynamics, for example, always start as assumptions. And only after some validation, they become opinions to only then turn into beliefs. So first met Fabio during a presentation he gave on metrics and data analysis. That day, with no hesitation whatsoever, Fabio dropped many of his beliefs like bombs. Since his standpoints were forged at the real trenches, Fabio never feels the need to sugarcoat them in any way. I believe that this transparency and straightforwardness should be encouraged in any field of knowledge that seeks to evolve. We know this is a collective effort, so I recommend you to remove all the distractions. With you, Fabio Martinelli Duarte, ladies and gentlemen.
It's good to add that I'm actually neurodivergent, so I'm not even capable of not being transparent, and I'm not capable of sugarcoating anything. But I hope that people don't get discouraged by that. So I'm gonna share my screen here. I selected this one because it was pretty interesting because it involved going into a company and trying to change their beliefs about what their product already was. So that was, I believe that was a very interesting case because of that. We didn't need a data team in order to grow that site, but we needed a very strong or well-made hypotheses that were based on research, and that's what I'm about to show you. So that was a small success that I had in my career a few years ago, and let's go into that. It was a media site, so um, it was specifically an educational news site. But I'm saying news because the people that wrote the articles, they were news people, and they used to work for a magazine, and that magazine became a site, and the site became a product. But they the most of the content on the website was not really news that were happening in real time, but rather, very well researched articles that would take months to write, discussing several aspects of education, teaching, especially children. So, and the company was an NGO. It was a nonprofit. So what they wanted to do is help advance educational or the education discussions in Brazil. Um, but at the same time, they had a donor. They had somebody that would pay the bills, but they wanted to pay their own bills. They wanted to generate revenue enough for it to stay afloat without the need for millions in donations every year. Um, so what they had was a pretty popular site because the magazine was well known. We had a few million monthly users there, and almost 100% were coming from Google. They would look for a certain topic, and chances are that we had something on it, especially topic related with education in general. So there was always something there, and something deep, interesting, well researched. We're not like number one for every topic because there were larger portals and magazines covering the same issues, but we were always usually on the first page of Google results. So um, we had like nice SEO going there. So so here's what they were doing. They wanted users to register. Okay, so we're gonna go into more detail. So what they decided to do is that, okay, whenever they keep looking at Google Analytics. Whenever an article would generate enough traffic, they would do like a soft paywall and close that traffic and demand that, okay, if you want to read this, you need to register. And it was like a kind of a light box pop up on top of the page, like it wouldn't let you read anything. That was before the New York Times and other
Mhm.
media companies. They really consolidated that. Oh, you have 10 free articles this month, that kind of stuff. That was already there, but it was relatively new. Okay, so there were media companies like trying all kinds of things way back then. So that's what they decided to do. Okay, if an article is generating enough interest, let's close it and make the user register. And this way, we're growing the number of registered users. So um,
And they blocked it entirely or partially, the article?
entirely,
Okay.
okay, you couldn't see anything.
Okay.
So and they had a few revenue streams there, and that was the first problem actually. So one of the revenue streams was ads on the articles. So you see that the strategy was actually going against the revenue stream because people wouldn't even see the ad. They needed to register even to see the ad. So and we're doing that in the most popular articles on top of that. So it was kind of scattered, was kind of all over the place, and that's usually what I mean by that. It's not that people that were making those decisions were stupid, but rather when you go to an older company, you have several years of decisions being made, and sometimes the decisions are in direct conflict with some other decision that somebody a few years ago had come to, and sometimes the discussions don't go deep enough for people to actually say, "Oh, you know what, we're kind of not deciding on anything. We're just like putting features on in front of the user and hoping that something will stick." So one of the things that I tried to bring was being more intentional. Really think about the journey of the users and what they want and how we can generate revenue or generate registered users um, from that. So they were trying to generate revenue with ads, and also there were like courses and tutorials and things, deeper content that they would package and try to sell. Okay, so usually courses, and that was the most common one. So those courses would be several hours of lessons if you really wanted to dig deeper into some of the topics that we covered. Um, and here's the success metrics. When I got there, they were like super proud of the success metrics. And they were like, "Oh yeah, usually a reader reads, I don't know, 3 articles per session, something like that." and the session duration is 20 minutes, something, it was whatever number they presented me. And they were using that as a success metric, and they're like, okay, your job is to get those metrics and make them even better. um, if I wasn't, I don't know, let's use the word a critic, I would probably try to work those metrics. But the first thing that we did was actually, okay, why exactly those specific metrics? Because, and I'll show you what the rationale that I used was. So this is the mission, okay? They had those metrics and they said, okay, we have around 100K subscribers or registered users actually, and we want that to get to 1 million by the end of the year. I had around, I believe it was 5 months, yeah, 5 to 6 months ish, something like that, and maybe become profitable. I don't know. Maybe just generate enough revenue for us to pay our salaries. But first thing, let's go to the registered users, which is usually a good approach. If you have the users, if you have their contacts, if you have their emails, it's way easier to sell something afterwards, because you can just like put them in some communications rule and keep bugging them until they buy something. So okay, yeah, I agree with that. Let's try and get more registered users, because if we have a few million monthly users and only 300K emails or contacts, that's pretty low. Especially because we didn't see the number of readers going down in any way, and it was not like most of them would be new users, but not by a large margin. I believe it was like 60-40, something like that, in users and returning users. So we had a nice number of returning users every month. So like, okay, that looks very small. And here's the page. It was more or less like this. Okay, so we had and maybe you guys that are older, you might kind of recognize that kind of design, from the portals of the 90s or the 00 years. So they had the title. They have immediately after the title, some share like Facebook or whatever share buttons we had at the time, with several, social media. Little bit of text like, oh, you also like those articles, and then a little bit of text, more recommendations, and also on the second column there were even more recommendations, like the most read articles were always there. So you can see that they were already kind of hacking into the metrics, the success metrics that they had, because they were like, okay, if the success metrics is making people read as many articles as we can show them in a single session, okay, here's some links, right? And so they're doing right in that regard. When you look at that kind of design, they're like, okay, um, you're trying to make increase the number of articles read. Awesome. But and there is a little bit of a register button at the header. It was always like visible over there. So let's take a step back. So that's the first thing that I did over there. Okay, first thing first, before I criticize that page, before we understand if those metrics are right, uh, what's the goal of a media product? What are we trying to achieve here? And that's the first question that we should always ask if you're trying to grow a product. Like, okay, what is the goal of the product? Don't try to put features in, and hope that something will be amazing. Let's be intentional. Let's understand what is actually amazing for the user, and let's amaze them. Let's design something that will amaze them. So the first thing is that why are people coming over? Why does this product exist at all? So, and that's an interesting thing, because usually when I talk about media products, and I worked in other media products, and I have several friends in Rio, that work at Global, like one of the largest media products in the world. Usually you talk about content, right? It's usually, oh yeah, a media. You think Netflix, you think about all the content that they have, the exclusive content and their own series and the way that you can binge watch, and you don't think a lot about features usually. It's more about, oh, if you put the right content, people will be entertained. And
True.
yeah, okay, we can think about that. But why exactly, in my news portal, why would people go there? To be better informed or something like that, right? To learn something new. Cool. So, so what behavior shows us that they are actually learning something new, that they're actually getting informed? And and we realized that a good metric would be, well, they probably if they like the article, they'll read it through the end. That's a basic assumption. It is an assumption, okay, but we started from there. Like, okay, that's fair enough. It's probably true. And I wouldn't say so right now in 2024 because we understand that attention spans have changed like drastically. Even the social networks, they're all investing into video. So I'm not sure if that specific way of seeing uh, success would probably I wouldn't use the same standard, okay? But this is what we used back then. Um, so let's see if they actually read the content until the end. The content, in average, was not like super short. They would have like a few page downs, if you will, in order to read the entire thing. They usually it was usually very well researched, like deep content, and the news people, they were very proud of the content. They said, no, that we're very good, in what we do. So okay, let's check it out. Do people actually feel that we're good enough? So that's what we measure. Let's see if they get all the way to the bottom. That 90% was more or less what we measured, that would where the article would end. Okay, there was a footer, there were more stuff underneath it. So let's measure the scroll page, how much the users scroll in on average on the article pages, and how many people get to 90% of the page.
And they were not considering that scroll before in the previous metric.
No,
Ah,
nothing.
okay, okay.
The read, like,
Just
articles,
open the
visits.
article. Okay, okay,
It was pretty much a visit, right? You open the URL, you're like, bing, it's a Google Analytics, the way that Google Analytics would measure
okay,
the visit.
got it.
So we're like, okay, let's do better, right? Let's measure the scroll. Let's see how far they go. And what we saw is that 2/3 of the users would actually scroll all the way down, which was pretty good.
Yeah,
I don't know if people that are seeing us right now are thinking that this is low, but I don't know. At least in my book, I
pretty
was I
high.
was surprised.
Yeah, it's
Like,
pretty
oh,
high this number, right?
I guess so, because that tells me that probably 2/3 of my users, they like my content,
Yeah,
which is good news. Like, okay, you know what? Let's not worry about the content that much then. Let's just assume that if 2/3 like it, oh, what about the other third? I don't know. I don't care. Let's focus on the 2/3 and let's see, because 2/3 of a couple million people a month, that's a lot of people. So we can do something with those. Like, so I just told the news guys, keep at it. Whatever it is that you're doing, I'm not going to go there. And this is something that's pretty important, because sometimes people confuse, like, oh, you need to be a media product manager or a data product manager or financial product manager. I don't feel this way at all, because when I was there, I'm not a journalist. I cannot write an article like at the level that those guys could. But I don't need to, and I didn't even need to understand what a good article is. What I had over there was that the part of the team that was doing that, they had their own standards, they have their own way of generating quality, and what I needed to do is trust them and make a digital product that would take advantage of that quality, and not go over there, in their own turf, and
true.
tell them that I would rather have another kind of article. So it was. I see that as always. There's always a collaboration. The product manager does not need to understand all the nooks and crannies of every topic that he's going to work with, but rather, okay, once there are people by your side that are doing good work. How can you actually package that into something that could be sold? That's my problem. And that's
Perfect.
the thing that the journalist cannot do.
Yeah, perfect.
So the discussion was, okay, how what can we do with those 67% of the users? So sounds like, again, it sounds like 300K registered users is really low because people actually like our content. They keep coming back. And do they not register? Why? Well, probably they don't see the point. Or maybe it's not easy enough to register. So what can I do? And this is what I just discussed. Okay, I forgot that I put a slide for that, so I just commented on that. Numbers were good. Let's try to work with what we have. We have 2/3 of people that like our content. So we did further research, and this is more qualitative. We started talking to users that would be users that would come back every month. We just selected few. They were registered. We had their contacts, and we talked to 10 or 20 users, just to understand, okay, what do you do with those articles? How those articles actually help you? And the target audience, I don't think I mentioned that, they were teachers. So, okay, do you take those articles to school? Do they help you be a better teacher? So, of course, each user that we interviewed, they would have their own vision, but what we understood is that, yeah, they were reading to become better teachers, so they would read a lot on the bus going to school. Like when they went to school, they had like zero time to stand in front of computer or the phone and read anything. But what they did is that whenever they read something interesting, they would go to the computer school, they would print the article, and then they would either like read it on paper later, because sometimes didn't have enough 3G or any kind of signal in their bus or train or whatever. Or sometimes they would use that paper, to give it to their fellow teachers that wouldn't, I don't know, they wouldn't bother going to the site. So they're like, okay, here's the thing. So they would print that with, Control P, like it would generate that browser kind of view with the URL on top and that
Yeah.
weird view. But that would be good enough. But it would print all the buttons, print the header, everything would be there. And like, oh, that's pretty interesting to know. And we couldn't really measure how many people printed, but like, okay, that's we could work with that. So so here's what we did. There's a number of decisions on that, but it's very important to say, okay, we didn't change a lot of the things. We didn't change the gist of the business. What we changed was pretty much design. So that was a very UX based case. We worked together with the designers and we're kind of bouncing hypotheses, and this is kind of the final product of what it did. So the first thing is that, okay, people want to read, right? If 2/3 are able to get to the bottom of the article, even though the article looks like this, they really want to read. They really want to go to the bottom because we're trying to distract them nonstop. So let's remove the distractions, and maybe more than 2/3 of the people will actually get to the bottom of the article when they will be able to educate themselves, and more people will be happy, because that's the first thing, guys. If the user is not happy with our product, there's nothing we can do to generate revenue or whatever it is that we want to do. So the first thing that a product needs to do is make sure that the target audience is happy, and the the audience is as large or as broad as possible. So remove distractions, make more people get to the bottom. When they got to the bottom, they could see, okay, now that you're happy, that you learned something, if you want to read something related with that, here's more articles if you want. But it's just a carousel. Maybe there was a scroll, but three or four ish, I would say.
Uh-huh.
Um, but also, and that's pretty important, whenever you're scrolling, when you got close to 90%, that get more articles like this. Do you like what you're reading? Like a nice message would appear, and just a field like, write your email here and register. instead of, oh, click here to register, and then there was a pop-up asking for the first name or something like that. Like, yeah, whatever, we're not doing anything with the first name, so let's just try to get the email. No, just one field. Let's make it simple. Oh, if you had the first name, maybe the messages that we sent could be more friendly. Yeah, but you know what? It's too much friction, maybe not worth it. Maybe we can just say, "Dear reader, we know that you like our articles, blah blah blah." Like
Yeah.
I don't believe that that would make like a world of difference. But anyways, it was something that we could discuss later. Let's just remove friction first, see what happens, and then we can discuss. And another thing that we did is that we actually did used a lib and automatically generated a PDF friendly version of the PDF version of the article that would be way friendlier to print. So there's just our logo on the top and just the article, like with no buttons, no footer, no nothing. Like, okay, here's the article, and you could print it. It would be really neat, and you could see our logo, beautiful there at the header and just the content. And we just put it there because just a test. We're like, okay, you know what? Let's see if people click on this. They told us qualitatively that they print. Let's see the quantity now. And we actually put a soft wall there. Whenever you clicked, okay, I want a PDF, a printer friendly version of the article, say, okay, you need to register. Just to see what happens. We could always remove it, right? So I just like, okay, because the rationale behind that was that user is probably already a kind of faithful user. They have a better relationship with us already if they're the printing users, let's call them that group, than people that are kind of getting acquainted with us. They're browsing some articles. When you get to the point of printing, maybe it's time for us to
More
request for a
engaged.
little commitment. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, they're more engaged. Uh,
I would say so. Okay, so
yeah.
these are all hypotheses, Paulo. We could maybe introduce them one by one with A/B testing, but we didn't have the proper resources back then, so we just decided, let's go all in. Um, and this is something that works even if you're doing an A/B test. Like, it's better not to change the entire page. I'm not saying this, but it's better to make a more dramatic change than just like a tiny little change and wait for the conversion, for the A/B test to converge into a result. It's gonna take way longer. If the change is a little bit more drastic, it's a lot better, because if there's some kind of drastic change, even the A/B test will converge. So I wouldn't do like an entire UX revamp with A/B testing, but in any case, drastic changes are better than subtle changes, especially if I'm not A/B testing at all. And then I'd rather do something very dramatic, so I could see the numbers before and after. They kind of, okay, there's a dramatic change. Then keep changing. I'm gonna change one button, and then you kind of don't know if that button actually had any kind of effect.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Perfect.
we kind of decided to go all in and just say, okay, let's do all of the changes at the same time. And because we only have the before and after, and this is what we need to work with. Um, we also made sharing way easier, just underneath printing. So it didn't because it didn't really make sense, and that was the standard back then. There was the article title and then the share buttons. You haven't read anything. Why would you share it? You know? And it was
True.
funny because it was pretty much like every blog was just like that. Like, it was at the header you could share. Well, I'd rather you first read my stuff, then you decide if you want to share. And it's important to say that those two buttons were always visible. So we made that column fixed. We also did something very controversial, which is breaking the model. So instead of closing, like articles, and demanding registration for the most popular articles, we just opened everything. And there was a very nice discussion with the CEO, because he was like, "But why would people register if we'll stop demanding them to do so?" And my thesis was, no, first we make people happy. First we show them what we are about, um, we engage them, and then we'll be able to make them register for. And he was like, but why would them? Well, because they're happy with us, because they want a relationship with us. And that was really new for him. He was really thinking about digital ways of making people behave in a proper way. And I was doing an approach that would more, I don't know, talk more about feelings, treat people as people and not as robots. Like, yeah, if somebody's happy with you, they will be bound to engage more. They will want to maybe, give you their email, and they want to know more about you and receive your newsletter, and so on and so forth. And uh, and uh, and maybe it's very, very obvious to say those things, but I'm still surprised by the number of places where where I talk about, metrics, and talk about the way that they're measuring success, and they kind of forget that making the user happy is the ultimate goal, and after that you will make money, guaranteed, instead of trying to, I don't know, maybe make the user uh, spend because it's the only way of doing something, and he's kind of grumpy with that and kind of bitter with you, like, "Oh, okay, I'll pay whatever," and you probably lose that churn is usually high because of that kind of approach. So I'd much rather go, into that, like, and I convinced the CEO. The CEO is pretty open, like, okay, if it doesn't work, it's on you. Yeah, fair. That's why I'm here. Product is the culprit always. It's the scapegoat. If nothing works, yeah, you can blame it on product, and yeah, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. And if we're not comfortable with that, we should not be in product, right? We like to be responsible, and we like to get the blame. Uh, So, and there is also a second iteration that we could do, right? Okay, if a lot of people are just coming for free, and it's working, yeah, we can always do the New York Times thing, like, oh yeah, you have XYZ free articles per month, and we even did that, in a second iteration, but it was already mapped. Like, okay, let's just test, let's see what happens, and if we feel that, we're giving away too much for free, when I say free, is that, I consider that the user registering and giving me his contacts, I consider that a currency, um, and we should all consider that a currency. It's not something that the users will want to give away for nothing. Yeah, but it was. I was saying that in the specific context of a single page, not even like the portal or not even the site. What I'm saying is that if you look for, here's the journey, and I didn't make a slide out of the journey. The journey is, you find you're interested in a topic, and you go to Google. Usually people would not start on our landing page, on our homepage, and every new site will probably tell you so. It's they don't really use the homepage for anything. They would use a search engine. They would look for a topic, and they will find an article over there. Click, go directly to that article page. So the article page is the landing page, is the first time that new users will have any kind of experience with us. Um, but I'm not only talking about new users. Maybe you're coming back, and then you start like remembering that I believe that I read something on this very website last week, probably, and you start kind of, because Google is sending you back to our site. Now you're kind of acknowledging that we exist and we're good, and our content is amazing. So what I try to do is that, okay, after you had that happy experience, which is reading a good article, and just that, and that's enough for me. I'm asking for your email at the bottom of the article. Simple, very simple journey.
Okay, got it.
So we're not talking about making the user come back on the third visit, nothing fancy really. But I believe that it is powerful because it was so simple. So that's the whole journey. It stops at the footer, if I get the email or not, and which is actually my new metrics, the article conversion rate. So that's what I was trying to achieve here. Okay, now I want to see how many people that open an article page, they become a registered user. and this is the increase.
My God.
It was ridiculous, yeah.
Yeah.
And and the CEO was like, I can't believe
How
how,
did you do that?
yeah, why? Why? Well, before that, like people would see the benefit in registering, and now you open all the content, and they're registering like crazy, like yeah, and that was pretty much one of the possible explanations, guys. And I want to be super careful here, but probably our hypothesis or making people happy with the content was right. They would
Perfect.
get excited, they're like, oh wow, that was a pretty good article. I want more articles like this. So, I'm going to subscribe. So we surpassed at the end of the year, we surpassed a million registered users, and also there were other benefits, and we were better positioned to sell because marketing now had 1 million people to keep pestering with our things that we could sell, and the print usage grew a lot. Like 15% of the users were using the button to print a PDF friendly version of the thing, which is something that was completely counterintuitive. It was also something that when you talk about printing, everybody will go like, we're an electronic product, what the hell, what are you talking about printing? The whole point of us,
Why?
it's not printing. And like, who am I to say that? My users like to print, for one reason or another. So let's give them what they want. I'm not about to educate anyone like in doing things that I like. I'm Fabio. I'm not my own user. I'm not a teacher. I don't read that much about education. I have no horse in this race, and this is also something that we should generalize more. And and I and it's also something that I hear a lot sometimes. Oh, the product manager must be an expert and must be their own target audience. I believe it the other way around works a lot better because I'm always open. Like if people tell me they print, okay, let's test it. Let's see.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
It's up to them, right?
yeah, exactly. I'm not going
Yeah.
to dump any ideas. And actually, there was a fun thing about printing. And well, one of the things that is a clear benefit of making people print more is that now you have physical presence in the world. You're a website, but now
Yeah.
there are papers with our logo out there, maybe on top of a table, or maybe I don't know where, but people might be reading one piece of paper. There are studies that say that an article that is printed is usually read by five or more people. We don't know. It's impossible to know the number, but we know that branding wise, that's brilliant because it's pretty much physical ads that we're not paying for. It's
Yes,
completely
because if you think about it, people that print something, either they're going to read or they're going to hand it to somebody else, right?
exactly do it. Maybe they're gonna leave it on top of a table somewhere.
Yeah.
It's there. So branding wise, it was brilliant, was great. And then we had like this amazing idea. One of my PMs, she was like, "What if we print some articles and sell them as a collection?" And again, everybody's like, that's crazy. Of course not. This is not going to sell. Like, yeah, we're an electronic media site. We're a portal, and it's fun because usually what I would tell them, and I'm talking even about the newsroom, like, no, we are a magazine. That's what we are. The value is in what the content that you guys write, just like a magazine. There's no value specifically because we're electronic. It's only about distribution. Now people can
Yeah.
read on their phones, but
Channel, right? Yeah.
but but the benefit that's exactly the same. If everybody would have a magazine on their hands or read it on the phone, pretty much the same. So I don't know. We're not establishing that people visit the website because they hate printed articles at all. We're kind of establishing maybe the opposite thing, that people go to the website, but they actually like to print things, and they might, a percentage of them, not all of them, of course, but maybe it's relevant enough. The percentage of them would like to read on paper. So that PM was like, okay, can I try, by printing stuff and selling? And we had a, because we were before a magazine, you know, we had the publishing arm of the company, and it was pretty easy for us to print anything and just distribute. Like it was all in place. So the operation of that was no nightmare, was pretty easy. Like we checked that. Like, okay, you know what, let's try, let's put it on the website. Oh, you want to buy a collection of printed articles on such and such topic, and that was highly profitable.
Oh, got it.
It sold like hotcakes, you know. It was amazing. And
Oh,
we had a
that's
laugh out of that because it was like,
that's
what
crazy.
are we doing? You know, we are digital product managers,
Yeah,
but
you came all the way around, right?
yeah,
Physical magazine to digital back to selling paper, right?
yeah, but they were highly personalized, you know, because well, why don't, so are we were we discovering how to save the publishing houses? I don't think so. But one thing that was actually happening is that because we were electronic, we knew which articles were more popular, so we could just print
Hmm.
those. You know?
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
knew how to make very good, very interesting, and useful content because the users were telling us, "This is very good. You know, I want more of this."
yeah. So you don't waste anything, you do it on demand, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
exactly. And we didn't need to print beforehand. Yeah. The only
yeah.
thing that we did beforehand was for Christmas, we printed a schedule, you know, like a kind of a diary thing with interesting articles and QR codes, like, oh, you can read more on our website. And we're measuring the traffic from physical to digital. It was pretty cool. We generated all the schedules, they were profitable, but also we generated some extra traffic, you know, coming from the QR codes into the website. So all in all, like that was a very fun case for us to discover. But I'm talking about the print thing, but that was not the most important thing to that happened. Okay, I'm just um, paying more attention on that, or talking more about this because it was very counterintuitive. So that
Yeah.
was worth, you know, mentioning. But of course, guys, the profit was here. Like the most amazing result was here. The traffic was registering like crazy. We didn't, and it's interesting to notice that we didn't really see a high increase in the traffic per se. It was more like that the traffic was way more engaged, which is something that you might not know, or might not agree. If you saw the design, like this design, is this more engaging than this?
Yeah. It's not easy to foresee, right?
Yeah. And maybe would people would defend, no, this is way more engaging because you can go to other articles. And I would hear those kinds of arguments before, right? And people would be, and it was very fair. I wasn't like, oh no, you're totally wrong. Like, yeah, of course you have a point, there are more links, but the whole rationale is, does the user want those links? You know, are we
Yeah.
presenting the links when they want it, or maybe they're trying to read and they can't because there are links and they're clicking, maybe not even on purpose.
And this is a good example of how we should balance the user needs and the business needs as well, right? Because the goal of the business was to get the user email, and they were just distracting them at
Yeah,
that previous UI design, right? Was you able to observe like in which visit they convert? Yeah, I mean, in the first, second, third, you know?
no, no, we're just like, okay, let me break down that metrics. That was not actually per visitor, okay? That's the conversion rate of article, so per visit, okay?
Mm.
So that's what we're measuring. So maybe some people would be on the first visit, some people would be on the third. We weren't really worried about that
Okay,
at the
got
time,
it. Per
okay?
article. Got it.
But that would be a fair thing to measure if you wanted to understand, okay, do how many times do we need to make people come back until they subscribe? That could be the next question.
Yeah, yeah, because that could be an argument for what the CEO was asking, right?
Yeah.
To block everything, and you say no, people get must come back like three times in order to provide their email. If we block everything, they won't be able to do so.
Well, but even more important, if they can't read one single article, why would they
Yeah,
subscribe at all?
Exactly.
They don't know that we're good yet.
Yeah, just the first time.
Yeah, but again,
Yes.
you know, you can always like use that the question that you just made. You can use that as an argument for the soft wall, saying, okay, they can read 5 articles a month, but the sixth you have to register and things like that.
There's something that I can never understand when I'm in contact with the customer support representatives is when I say, "Oh, just please register this feedback that I have for I'm not satisfied with this policy of the company," and when they ask, "Okay, you should call another number," that's just nonsense to me because I'm already giving them my feedback. And I noticed in your last experience that you kind of transformed the CS department into a qualitative feedback gathering. That probably was before this AI kind of revolution, right? So I was curious to know if there were any challenges, any learnings that you had during that process.
The most important thing was that I was preaching the gospel of the user must be happy. It's not about us putting obstacles in front of the user happiness, but rather we need to be a company that they trust. We need to be, you know, a news portal that they like. Um, it's it's pretty bad or dark pattern to make cancellations, for instance, you know, put it behind like a phone call. That's a very, if you excuse my French, shitty way of treating your user, because hey, if they want to cancel, let them cancel. Why why not? Is that the revenue that you want? The revenue of disgruntled users that could not cancel?
Yeah.
So, in principle, that's bad. It's not even practical because if you're doing that to your users, one of your users is going to be a judge or a lawyer or, you know, and somebody that's going to come after you. And it's a matter of time if you keep doing this. And usually that does not turn out very well for the company. And also, it is something that I believe that's all is the gravitas of the product. You know, like what what does the product team actually believe? Do you believe that you're there to make the best possible product that you could, to make people happy, to solve a problem out there in the world, and in that process you generate revenue for the company? Or do you believe that you're going to treat all users as suckers, you know, that you have to extract as much money as possible from? Um, one of those trains of thought will make a better world. The other will make the world a lot worse. Like, so I know where I want to be, you know.
Yeah, it's in the long term, it's not sustainable. Like Sean
Yeah,
Ellis talks about it all the time. You can do it for a while. You cannot do it
yeah,
forever, right?
yeah. So I'd rather, you know, cater to people's good feelings and just say, hey, let's make our users happy. And usually people will go like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. You know, it's during my career, it was very rare that people would be openly hostile towards the user, you know, and say, nah, we want as much money, you know, as we can. Usually that's not the the reason why people open a company.
So now going more for your current challenges that you're facing. You told before that you like to solve problems. So I was curious if there's something interesting that you're working on now and that you could share with the audience.
I can tell you that I'm working with a career marketplace. It's pretty interesting to go into the HR um, market, especially in Brazil, where unemployment is pretty high at this point, and we're totally applying some of those principles. You know, what is a happy user? What is a happy candidate for a job? What is a happy recruiter? You know, what do they want to see? What is a cool happy ending for those guys, especially even if you don't get selected? Or, you know, what does a recruiter wants to see? Like, well, how does a good pool of candidates look like? That kind of stuff. It's pretty cool to discuss that. And the UX people are really into doing something that's very similar to this. We're putting some metrics on certain aspects of the journey, and we're optimizing one metric after the other. Like, first, you know, that specific phase of the journey. Let's optimize that. And we just did a complete rehaul design of by coincidence of a registration page, and we just raised 3 times the conversion rate of the registration page.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that was pretty
Wow.
cool. But and we're already trying the third interaction of this to make it even higher, and to make more people, be suitable candidates for the recruiter. So that's one of the things that I'm doing. Um, the other thing that is completely nothing to do with that is a platform API product that's pretty much an ecosystem for a very, very specific industry that's not even digital, that is it's an industry that people would go into. Well, they might be pen and paper, but maybe some spreadsheets to control, certain movements at their businesses. And some guys, they invented a kind of an ecosystem platform that you can actually program with low to no code to make applications and to control those things better. So very specific market, and extremely interesting product, and it has a market fit. It's very healthy. It generates a lot of revenue, but they want to go to the next step. Okay, how do we grow? Because it's an extremely difficult thing to market and to explain what it does. Like the sales pros, the sales cycle is more than 6 months because you need to keep explaining how exactly that would fit in a certain industry environment, and so I'm having a lot of fun there as well. And those
Well,
are the two that I can mention.
that's where business knowledge come into play, right? Because you need to understand all those dynamics, right, between the parts of the business that how they interact with each other, and where to adjust better for it to be work better, right?
I do, but I ask. I don't rely on my own previous knowledge. I'm just like, okay, okay. Let me talk to people that are using
Sure,
this, and
sure.
so I understand when they use this, and usually, and also I asked a lot about the before and after. That
Ah,
just like I understood that they printed the articles, right? So like, okay, use the system. And when do you use the system? When you're not here, what are you doing, outside the system? When actually are you encouraged to come here and maybe, type
yeah.
something
No,
into
no,
the
I
system?
was referring not the specific industry, but general business knowledge, So
Yeah,
talking about the HR market, coincidentally, I was thinking because the mechanism that LinkedIn, like the HR people use on LinkedIn, like the ranking is very based on your activity on LinkedIn,
yeah.
right? So not necessarily everybody is going to post an article every once in a while. So, but that doesn't mean that they're worse candidates for the opportunity, right? So that's something that I was thinking about, if the HR people really benefits from that, or they're just getting people that engage more, they are more put their faces more on the web.
That's a very, very valid question, Sounds like it's two things that might not connect very well. Maybe if you generate content, not necessarily you're a good candidate.
Exactly, yeah.
I can tell you how I use content. I generate content because I'm actually selling pretty much content, right? When people hire me, they want my content, they want my knowledge. So I write because I need to show that I have a lot of knowledge. Um, so in my specific case, I would say, okay, yeah, it helps that LinkedIn is also a content platform, but I don't believe that a lot of people would fit in that exact description.
Throughout your career, I think you had to hire lots of product managers, right? And select people to be part of specific challenges. Are there characteristics that you think are most valuable when you're doing that kind of choice?
Yeah, liking to talk to the user. That's the first thing that I actually kind of separate people that will be good product managers and people that will keep faking the career until they go to some other job. Because I encountered time and again, I find people that actually they dislike talking to the user. They don't care. They really see the product management job as a more operational thing. No, I just want to sit here and make my Kanban board move, and this is all I do, and have some ideas and discuss the ideas. And I usually tell them, yeah, you're not paid to have ideas at all. You're paid to know a lot about the user to understand which ideas on the table should be done first. That's what a good product manager does, right? So he's not going to bring, oh, I had an idea, I'm a genius. It's more like, okay, I can even have an idea, but I understand that there are 40 other people also having ideas. So I'm not helping with new ideas here, but I will help a lot bringing my knowledge of the user out there, like they like to print. Bring something that you discover, bring it to the discussion, and now you're useful. So whenever I find somebody who doesn't really fancy or prioritize talking to the users. Some people find it a nuisance, and they're not structured enough, like mentally maybe, to understand in all of the things that the user said what could be valuable and what is just a detail about their own lives that should not be generalized into a product. You need some experience doing that to understand, okay, not everything that they're going to tell you should become a feature, but sometimes you strike gold and somebody gives you just need one user giving you one brilliant idea, maybe, to change your product and get a new slice of the market. But you need that kind of sensibility that comes from talking a lot to users, like, and then you understand, oh wow, that's the third time somebody says that they need that. So I might be willing to look into that. But if you ask your CEO and your CEO, you're probably, no, that's a dumb idea. You should not do this. So and sometimes I see people confusing that. Well, you need to be a good influencer. I'm a pretty bad influencer myself. I never consider myself a very good one, but I bring data. I bring facts. I say I talk to the users, they said that, or I measure people that read the articles and 67% read it until the end. When I bring those data, then my credibility goes high and people will want to listen what I have to say because, okay, the guy did his research. It's not about arguments. It's not about being convincing. It's not about becoming friends with everybody. It's much more, yeah, I'm doing the work. I'm talking to them. I'm looking at the market.
Perfect.
Oh, what about the internal job? Yeah, that's 20% of my thing. To see if the Kanban board is moving, but 80% is me looking at numbers, and that's the second thing. You need to feel comfortable looking at dashboards and slicing numbers and just trying to think about what the I don't know, a drop in your views might mean, or a drop in your conversion rate might mean, and you need to be watching your conversion rates to even see that it dropped. And you need to like that because the numbers tell you how the users are behaving. So that's very, very important. If you only trust in unqualitative reports, you only have in kind of half the picture. It's very important for you to know how many people are doing such and such. um, those two things, and a third one which is related to those, is I don't like to work with people that try to convince me that they already know the answer. I'd much rather work with people that get excited about not knowing the answer, like, that's a very good question. Wow. Okay. We need to. You know what? I'm gonna do a quiz, and that's what I like to see. Like, because that's how I feel. Also, like, if somebody, what do I know about HR recruitment platforms? Nothing. And I usually tell my new clients, oh, what do you do? I do financial whatever. Okay, I know nothing about this, but I'm really excited to learn, and I have the tools to learn very fast, because continuous learning is what a product manager does. I keep learning about the users nonstop. And so I develop my toolkit, and I'm way better than anyone in your company doing this, because they're doing other things too. They're They need to take care of the business, the financials, the operations. And as a product person, I am learning. And so you can talk to me about anything that's happening out there, and I have a report done, made for you, and I know what's going on. And if I don't know, I'll be super excited to go and learn very fast. Like, okay, let's ask. That's a great question that you just asked me. I have no idea. So I get really excited about that, and that's what I like to see in other product managers. It's very, very discouraging to work with PMs that get passionate about their own ideas. Like, no, but I had this idea for this killer feature. I really believe it will. Uh, I don't care what you believe in. It's not about believing. And so yes, I hate uh, ice because confidence. I have confidence 87. I don't care how confident you are. I really don't care. Because it's not about confidence. It's not about beliefs. Not about faith. It's about facts. So go after the facts, and we should never do anything with a confidence lower than 100. Never. If you're not totally confident, oh, but you can be totally confident and commit mistakes. Exactly. So that's why you should even not take that into consideration. But if you're going to do something, try to be as confident as humanly possible, and not like, oh, that might work. You don't have any better ideas, the only idea that you have might work. Let's do something better. So you have to be excited about your own ignorance. You might even know a good solution. Okay, maybe we are experts in learning the solution, but we'll never be experts in the problem. The users are experts in the problem. They know what's painful for them. So let's keep our ears open, and listen to them.
So, Fabio, the CPOs as a service is a relatively new value proposition to the market, at least in Brazil. So I thought it could be useful for people to know a bit more about it. Are there specific contexts in which the companies can benefit the most from this model?
Yeah, I would say so. It really depends on how mature the company feels that their leadership is. Product management is still new in the world, right? It was invented around 20-ish years ago. So it's not uncommon that even the leaders might need some more senior help, and many times they don't have that help available. Sometimes even the CEO or the founders, they don't know enough of the product specifics to grow their companies beyond what they already could do. So in those cases, it could be very beneficial for them to have a more senior leader. And at the same time, they don't need to open a space in their advisor board or a C-level space in their companies. They can just hire somebody like me who's going to be there doing exactly the same work that a CPO might do. But the only difference is that I'm not full time. So I don't need to appear busy for 8 hours a day, and at the same time I don't charge 8 hours a day either. So it becomes like a very convenient way and cheaper way of having high seniority without you having to shuffle around your company positions.
Yeah, interesting. And would you say that is there an specific company profile, like an ICP, that could benefit the most from this model?
Yeah, usually I would say that companies that are already 20-ish employees and over that, because smaller than this, usually the CEO is going to be the product person, and
Hmm.
he's more eager to get things done than actually structuring too much how product is made. um, so when you have a couple or maybe three squads, and you already have your first product manager, um, now you will want to have more senior leadership. That's usually when the market starts, and it can go all the way up to large companies with thousands of employees.
So you heard the man, guys. Talk to the users, be able to read between the lines, be curious, be skeptical, read data.
And do not use ice. I don't like it.
And don't use ice. Fabio, thanks a lot for your time, man. It was a very fruitful conversation we had here. I appreciate that a lot. So, last thing, where people can get in touch with you.
It's LinkedIn. I'm always there. I talk to a lot of people through there, so that's my most active channel. I write in Portuguese though, because I believe that Brazil, needs a few nudges towards more enlightenment regarding product management. There's a lot of very good content in English already. So
Yeah.
over there, I only write in Portuguese. That's the choice that I had. But yeah, with an accent, but I do speak English, so you can get
So
in touch
just
if you want to.
yeah. So just for you to know, Fabio is part of the Sem Crachá podcast as well, along with Paulo Chiodi, Renata Gagetti, and Joca Torres. It's a great podcast. They are already in the fourth episode, I think, fifth or
Yeah,
fourth,
yeah,
right? And it's just great. I recommend all day. Thanks a lot, Fabio.
yeah. Thanks a lot for having me. It was a pleasure.
Fabio. See you soon. Bye bye.
Bye.